wanna fly like an eagle, way up in the sky, free as I wanna be. Spread my wings, spread them big and wide. All I need is you, right here by my side. I'm a lover and a fighter too. I do what I do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AC23, the official radio show and podcast of the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge. My name is Chancellor of xero, Skidmore. Our producer is Jeremy Porsain, and I also want to thank Jonathan Grimes, who's also been pitching in on some of the editing lately. I'd also like to thank WHYR and iHeartMedia for their continued support, and thank you to everyone who has been tuning in to the radio broadcast and streaming the podcast and subscribing to the podcast and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just feeling grateful these days, y'all. My family is healthy. I'm gainfully employed, knock on wood. I have art in my life, and me and my children, we play hand drums almost every day in our garage. All of my musician friends and poet friends are live streaming performances, and I can't forget the culinary art of my wife's Nigerian red stew. We moved into a new house 2 weeks ago, and besides the backbreaking work, there are a lot of aesthetic choices, thousands of aesthetic choices that are required for every square inch of space. I'm looking at how rugs do or don't tie the room together. I'm looking at how the towel rack has to match the cabinet knobs, or maybe not. And I'm looking at my bare walls. Now, my walls aren't simply bare because we just moved in. My wife and I decided to start buying some art pieces for our last house about 4 years ago. And since then, we've window shopped ourselves into this kind of buyer's block. We're hesitant to spend money on anything that doesn't speak to our souls. But with all of the framed voyeurism we've been doing over the past few years, I have not been blown away like I was scrolling through the pieces that were entered into this year's juried exhibition, Art Flow. I have two of the judges here today to talk about the show and their experience serving as judges for it. But first, a quick plug for the Arts Council's TGIF music concerts. Any day could feel like Friday if you book a TGIF musician to perform at your business's next online team meeting. Create your own happy half hour and provide patronage for a local musician at the same time. Contact info@artsbr.org to set up your show today. Now, here with us on this installment of AC23, we have Ms. Kristin Krolak. She's the gallery director of LSU's School of Art. We have also Mr. Dale Newkirk. He's the department head of visual art and design at Southeastern University. They have both, along with Randell Henry, who's not with us today, they have served as this year's judges for Art Flow, which used to be Art Melt, right? I feel like my artistic IQ is about to go up a few points just being in the presence of such learned scholars. Thank you for agreeing to do the show today. How are y'all?
Very good. Thank you.
All right. So we had a few technical difficulties earlier. We're up and running, y'all, and we're so excited. So let's start with the basics for any listeners who may not yet share my amazing level of expertise. When we say visual art, as far as a juried art exhibition, what all mediums are we including there?
I can say
Go ahead.
it means everything. Painting, photography, printmaking, 3D work, sculpture. I was ready to look at anything, textiles. The more the merrier. There's so many ways to use different media to express yourself, and that's what makes it so exciting. For me, the variety is really something that I look forward to. So anything goes as far as I was concerned.
How about you, Dale?
Well, I think it goes back to the parameters of the exhibition and the goals of the show and how that's been the guidelines that have been laid out. And then after that, it's like whatever people submit, and we look at the integrity of the work and how that might relate to the overall sensibility of the show. You might look for some kind of themes or content that might be regional, that might hold the show together better. But other than that, in terms of media and modes of working, it's all kind of open and good.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you talked about the goals of the show. I guess we recently had a selection process for the Baton Rouge Poet Laureate, which is going to be announced in a few weeks. And so I'm interested in what were you guys given like a criteria or a rubric per se, or did you kind of each of you just kind of go off your own criteria for what would be the standard or I guess a ranking system? I don't know. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we did have a ranking system, but for me, I just I have some things in mind when I'm looking at it, like what are they trying to communicate, and then even things as simple as craftsmanship and technical ability, and innovativeness and use of color and form and all of those good things. And was it interesting, and did it move me? Did I feel like I wanted to see more of it? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of subjective and objective parameters that you use when you're selecting. And then, but we rated it on a scale, and then some of them were just so outstanding, and then it's so subjective. It's just like, what's your opinion? And which is why I was glad there was 2 other judges, mm-hmm. so that, that we could get kind of a group. I think that they then took all the numbers and put them together, and then figured out what were the favorites of all 3 of us, because we didn't consult with each other. And it was a blind judging, so we didn't know who the people were. So we just had to totally go on a visceral feeling, like how did it make me feel? What were they trying to communicate? Was I catching it? And so that's what I look like. I'm very, intuitive when I come to my jurying of things. However, form and content and craftsmanship is really important too.
What about you, Dale?
Well, usually I've done a lot of these judging of different kinds of exhibitions and public art things, installations. Usually the judges have some kind of communication, so that there's a dialogue between the judges, and you might compromise on some things or argue for certain things that you like, and then maybe let somebody else have something in the show that maybe you didn't like. And so that really didn't occur this time, since it was us kind of doing it on our computers, which was also different, because oftentimes you're in the space with the work. But in our current situation, I've done a couple of these exhibitions where you're really judging it from photographs, from documentation. So, and we were ranking it numerically. But, what I'm looking for is the tradition that the artist is working in. Within that tradition, or how are they fulfilling their goals, and what are they expressing? What's the level of craftsmanship? Is it engaging? Is it intriguing? Is the work challenging? That's the kind of things I'm looking at. If it's a decorative piece, then I want it to be like really sucking my eyeballs out decorative. And if it's about craft, I want it to be amazing. If it's political, I want it to have powerful social content. So it just depends on, I'm not looking for my personal preferences, but what are the goals of the artist, and how are they fulfilling those goals?
And Dale, is it possible to completely ignore, like everyone has, of course, as professionals, you all have certain things you're looking at as practitioners and professionals and scholars, but also each human being has their own personal taste. How hard is it to not allow your personal taste to come into play?
Well, it is, all of us are artists, and we're human beings, and we have biases and we have preferences. But I think we're also aware of those biases.
Yeah.
I don't care that much about figurative work, for example, but I know that. And so I'm going to look at it within my knowledge and training and knowledge of art history, and judge it based on that, and try to not let those biases, get in the way, because I don't really think that's fair. but still, it's really hard to not have any kind of prejudice at all in doing this. But I don't think it's as intuitive or random as what one might think. It's not just based on my tastes. It's not about me. It's not about my preferences. It's based on my knowledge and skill. And I've been in this field since 1984, so I've been doing this a long time.
All right. Well, we have Mr. Henry has joined us. How you doing, Mr. Henry?
All right.
Hello there. I've been trying to get in since about 11:25.
Oh,
Hey,
It just
Randell.
let me in. The meeting just let me in.
man, it's this technology. We're stuck in this world right now. I can't wait until the day when I can have y'all on the show as guests and we can breathe the same air without getting sick. So
Yes, but Zoom is nice. I've been watching TV program with Zoom on it. I mean, it's wonderful.
it is. I
a whole new world.
we can't be too hard on the technology. It's all we got right now.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Henry, I was
thankful for that.
Yes, indeed. I was just talking to Mr. Newkirk about every judge maybe having their own criteria and then some shared criteria amongst y'all. What were you really taking into account when you were looking at the pieces for Art Flow?
Well, the main thing is creativity. It can be a work in any genre, but if there's creativity, if I can sense really good creative works, I want other people to see it. I want the public to see the work. I mean, it can be a landscape with a twist.
Yeah.
A still life done in a new way, an inventive way. It can be a mixed media work that's challenging, that's different, that's wonderful for others to see. I mean, that's my main focus. Creativity, design, elements of art I look for, good use of lines, shape, patterns, and variations on the themes, and just it's a combination of things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's great you mentioned creativity. I think that there's always just the wow factor, right?
Yes, and I've seen so many works in exhibitions and museums and art galleries at universities, at public schools, and I mean, I've seen children who express a whole lot of creativity in artwork. So I want other people to see quality works.
So on the website, folks listening at home, you have artsbr.org. You can go to the website and see all of the pieces. We had some amazing photographers, one of which I have to give a shout out to Eric Garcia, who took the shots over at Manship Theater. Beautiful work, beautiful photography of the work. And for the photography pieces, it's photography of the photography, right? But there's a People's Choice. You can vote for the People's Choice, and for you all at home, I voted for a piece. I don't want to say the name of the piece because I don't want to bias anyone who might go there and vote. But I kind of had to question myself afterwards because me, my background is poetry. I'm a literary guy, and so I kind of really was aware that a big part of how I experienced the piece was because I love the title so much. And is that weird? Is that a part of the experience of the artist? I mean, of the audience member?
Yeah. Titles are very important.
Titles can be intriguing.
Titles give.
Go ahead, Mr.
Titles give the art context, and it kind of.
Y'all just said titles can be intriguing. In fact, I like watching 2 or 3 people standing in front of a work of art and just looking at the title and trying to find meaning through that title. Searching. I can see them there searching for something. And that's fun in itself too.
And you were agreeing with him, Mr. Newkirk?
Yes, titles give the work context, and they point the viewer into a direction, kind of get them in the same room with the artist, so to speak, in terms of what the artist is thinking about. And some artists don't want that, so they might call it Untitled Number 52 because they don't want to lead them the audience. And others, their titles become these like long, beautiful poems. So it's fine.
And I think an untitled piece, that untitled title can also intrigue some people.
Yeah, gives you information too.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
In fact, in a way, by putting untitled on the work, that brings the work to a finish. It's letting the audience finish the work
Ah,
by
that's a
looking
great
at
point.
it, giving the whole meaning to it.
That's a great point. So,
But what you like is what you like, and that's legitimate. Xero, whatever you're drawn to, it is your people's choice, so that's your choice. So
yeah, and
it really makes sense in a narrative.
I want people to hear this radio show and run to their computers to go look at the pieces. And I wish I could talk about some of my favorite pieces. I watched the Netflix documentary the other night, The Price of Everything. And I was just, man, it was just, for me, the visual art world, that was my first love. I grew up drawing. And me and my brothers would draw all the time, all day. And I later got into doing music and performing as a musician and doing poetry and publishing. But it is always, for me, it's the original art form. It's what was on the cave walls, right? And so I think that it's something that's in our DNA, visual art. Is there any truth to that? This is something I'm making up. Is there any truth to that, I think? Y'all think?
Yes. Every culture I know, every culture has had people who were known as the creative folks, the creative people. And they made art. They made interesting artwork. They drew. Our first language was a visual language where we drew, made marks on walls, made marks on the floor, made marks on paper. So it's our first language. And it's very important too.
Yes, yes.
It's also a transcendent way to reach back through history, because when you hold a ceramic bowl, for example, you're holding something that someone thousands of years ago held, that they were doing the same kind of thing. And there's this connection, and mark making is something that is ancient, but it still continues to today. So it's a communication with our ancestors and with our history and humanity as the long history of humans. And so it's wonderful. To me, it's very exciting. And having that in your house, I don't think there's anything better than having artwork in your house. And
no,
especially
I don't think there's anything better either.
No.
So there's a $5,000 prize for first place, $2,500 for second, and $1,000 for third. So obviously, especially in these times, these artists would like to maybe win that money. But I would say for up-and-coming artists, how important are these juried exhibitions? Is it a part of their development? Do they learn from this experience?
Well, oftentimes it's how people enter into their first experiences of showing. It's kind of a time where you can learn how to pick work for a show and what might be successful, and learn the kind of rules of showing your work. Some of those are unspoken, and you have to kind of figure it out by participating in that culture and being part of the art community. So oftentimes these juried shows for young or upcoming artists is how their entree kind of into exhibiting, because you're not going to go in and have a one-person show in Arthur Roger Gallery, for example, like your first time out. You have to build your resume and your experience with exhibiting work and just learn that whole experience. But it's really important to do that. A big part of making art is to create it and then share it with an audience. That's your role in society as an artist.
And also these shows can lead to other exhibitions. Lots of people see these juried exhibitions, and artists can make connections with other artists by coming to the shows and meeting the other artists and finding out about the other artists who are showing. And it's a good way to make connections and hopefully get other shows through these shows too.
And I would also add that, people love a good competition. I know in poetry, quite often we would get people come out to the poetry slams, which are a competition. But if it was just a reading where I was just going to read some of my work, I might not get as big of an audience. But if there's going to be a winner, a loser, people kind of get into the whole competition thing.
Yeah. But making connections with folks.
Yes. And being a part of the community, right? I think for me, like going out to the poetry competitions was a way that I became a part of the poetry community.
Right. And it's a
Yeah.
and it's a great way to meet other artists, which are always those are the people that inspire
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
and keep you going, so
They mentor you.
yeah,
And
they
also,
mentor you.
yes.
And
And then in that way, the artist can feel a part of something bigger.
Yes.
Lots of times making art in your studio is very isolating. So you go to the openings and you're in an exhibition and then you feel like, you're part of something beyond yourself.
Yes.
So these pieces at these juried exhibitions, are they typically for sale? Would if someone went to the website and they saw something that they absolutely loved, would there be a way for them to maybe contact the artist directly, or how does that usually work at a juried exhibition?
well, this is an unusual situation because usually you can go right into the gallery and talk to the gallery director, and they can make the love connection between you and the piece you want to buy. But in this case, I would contact the Arts Council, and because I'm sure that Brian Morfitt would have the information of all the artists, and I would contact him and ask him to hook you up with whoever made the piece. Because there's something really special about buying an original work of art that's a one-of-a-kind piece that you can then take home and enjoy and have it be part of your everyday life. So if anyone has that impulse, I encourage you to follow it.
Yeah,
that would be bmorfitt at artsbr.org. Big shout out to Brian, who even right when the shutdown happened, he had to push forward and get these pieces hung and also get the photography done and create a whole kind of web page around all of these pieces.
Yeah, he really pulled something. You all at the Arts Council, you really pulled something wonderful off, and I'm so glad that this continued. And it wasn't you didn't just give up, but you found a new way to get this art out there because it is for the community.
Also, some of these artists have websites, and one can only just Google the name of the artist and see more works that may be available by that particular artist. Google the name and make contact in that way.
Yeah, or even Facebook or Instagram.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, these pieces, for those listening, they can be seen at our website, artsbr.org. And you can also, with the click of a button, you can go and vote for the People's Choice Award. Once Baton Rouge reopens, these pieces will still be up. I think they're still going to be up through the mid-June or early June. And so we should be able to get a look at these pieces. Art galleries do allow some level of social distancing. And so I think we'll be able to actually see these pieces before they're taken down. That is my sincere hope. I want to thank the three of you for being on the show today. That's our time. I want to encourage everyone to go and see these pieces, support these artists, and go vote. Because you want the people's choice to represent the people, and you are the people. Everyone listening, you are the people. So thank you all so much for being on the show today. And thank you all so much for being judges and volunteering your time and your expertise to help these artists. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It's a wonderful exhibition, too.
It really is.
Yes, it is. It's
nice to see all y'all.
Thank you.
Nice to see y'all. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.